It's a clash of titans as Vasyl Ivanchuk takes on Teimour Radjabov. We're in for a treat with the king's Indian defense promising a sharp and tactical battle ahead, and we kick off with a standard king's Indian setup. White seizes the center with pawns on d4 and c4, while Radjabov develops his kingside, fianchetting the powerful dark-squared bishop. Both sides get their kings to safety and complete development. Black strikes at the center with e5, and Ivanchuk responds with the main line, pushing the pawn to d5, locking the structure and setting the stage for the middle game. And here are the textbook plans in action. Ivanchuk begins his queenside expansion with b4 and a4, while Radjabov launches his kingside pawn storm, starting with the crucial f5 push. The race is on. The tension in the center breaks as pawns are exchanged on f5. After a quick queen redeployment, Ivanchuk clamps down on the queenside, playing the powerful pawn to c5. Radjabov faces a key decision on the queenside and opts for bishop to d7. This looks fine, but it lets a real opportunity slip by. The much stronger move was pawn to a6, directly challenging White's expansion. After a standard reply like rook to d1 and king to h8 followed by pawn to h3, Black could then play bishop to d7, having already secured his queenside. Back in the real game, Radjabov plays bishop to d7 immediately, and this gives White a free hand to build a commanding advantage, and Ivanchuk immediately punishes the inaccuracy. The pawn pushes to b5, followed by the crushing pawn to c6, completely paralyzing Black's queenside. Radjabov is forced into a passive defense. A tense maneuvering phase begins. Both kings tuck away for safety. After repositioning his pieces, Ivanchuk opens a new front, challenging Black on the kingside with the pawn push to g4. But here, Ivanchuk plays the rook to a4. This is a slip that misses the strongest plan and actually gives Black a chance to fight back by winning a pawn. Radjabov calmly improves his rook's position to e8, and White captures the pawn on b6, setting up a critical moment. And pawn takes pawn on b6, an excellent and absolutely essential recapture by Radjabov, the only move to keep the balance. And here's the point. If White now tries, knight takes bishop on g6 with check, the queen simply recaptures. And after rook to a7, Black has rook to c8, and it's Black who is now winning a pawn and seizing the advantage. Ivanchuk continues his plan with rook to a7, and after rook to c8, White executes the check on g6. Radjabov's queen recaptures, becoming a very active piece. The tension continues to build as rooks are repositioned, and now Radjabov strikes. The pawn thrusts forward to e4, blasting open the center. The knights jump into the fray, and the position is electric. The center explodes. Black captures on f3, White pushes the f-pawn, and Radjabov's knight leaps into the action, capturing the key pawn on d5. Wow! Rook takes pawn on f3, a stunning sacrifice from Ivanchuk. He gives up the exchange to rip open the files around Black's king, banking on a decisive attack. Radjabov accepts the challenge, capturing the knight on f4. The white queen recaptures, the bishop defends on f6, and after bishop to b3, Black's queen swings over to h5, creating counter-threats. Ivanchuk decides to trade bishops on f6 with a check, and the black rook recaptures, slightly relieving the pressure on the king. White's attack is still dangerous, but the next move is critical. He plays bishop to e6, and this is a serious misstep that throws away the advantage. The correct path was retreating the bishop to c2, keeping the pressure on. After knight to d5 and queen to g3, Black would still be defending after rook to e8 and rook to a1, where White is still much better. But in the game, bishop to e6 is played, and this allows Radjabov to turn the tables completely, and Radjabov finds the perfect reply, rook to f8. A fantastic move, and the only one that punishes White's mistake, lining up to win the bishop on e6. Ivanchuk, perhaps under pressure, lashes out with rook takes pawn on c7. This is a fatal mistake that loses the game on the spot. He had to play queen to e3, trying to hold things together. Even then, after rook takes bishop on e6, pawn takes rook on e6, and rook takes the rook on f3 with a follow-up queen check to d4. Black is still clearly better, but the game goes on. Instead, in the game, rook to c7 is a blunder, walking right into a tactical shot, and there it is. Rook takes bishop on e6, a brilliant counter-sacrifice from Radjabov, and this is the winning blow. The point is this: if White tries to defend the rook with rook to d7, Black's knight simply snaps the pawn on f5. After a move like pawn to h4, queen to e8 comes, and Black is simply winning a piece by force. And now Ivanchuk makes the final, a decisive error. Recapturing with pawn takes rook on e6. This allows a crushing sequence. The only chance, though desperate, was rook to f1. After knight takes pawn on f5, rook to g1 and rook to g6, followed by an exchange of rooks, white is still losing but avoids immediate disaster. But after the move in the game, pawn takes rook on e6, it's all over. Radjabov cashes in with rook takes the queen on f4. It's a completely winning move, though a queen check to d5 would have been even more clinical, and Ivanchuk finds the only move to prolong the game, recapturing with rook takes rook on f4. Any other move would lead to an immediate catastrophe. Radjabov now initiates the final sequence with queen to d5, check. The white king is forced over to g1, and the queen delivers another check from g5, and with this, the game is over. And with that final check, Ivanchuk resigned the game. A thrilling King's Indian battle that swung decisively in the end. A great win for Radjabov. White stopped the clocks because the position is completely hopeless. Here's what he saw. The king would have to step to f1, then queen takes the rook on f4 with check. King moves to g2, queen to g4 check. And after king to f2, the white king is completely exposed and the material deficit is overwhelming.